In the fight to win recruits, the U.S. Army fell short this year, something leaders like Army Secretary Christine Wormuth have warned about for months.
I would say we're about 12 to 15,000 recruits short this year.
According to new figures, the Army missed its target by 25%. Following the terror attacks on 9/11, a flood of Americans raised their right hand to serve. But after 2 decades of American troops in war zones, this year has been what Wormuth deemed the most challenging recruiting year since the end of the draft.
What are some of the biggest concerns that recruits have when they come in and talk to you about potentially enlisting?
The biggest concern really is deploying. They're afraid of deploying, am I going to go to Russia to deploy and stuff like that?
A lot of people are still thinking about 20 years of being at war in Iraq and Afghanistan. And obviously, a lot of parents had concerns about the idea of sending their child off to war. We've got to do a better job of telling the Army story so that we can change some of those outdated perceptions.
Now a pilot program at Fort Drum is doing just that.
So I'm on Twitter. I get a note from a teacher down in Wallenpaupack, Pennsylvania, and she was like, well, can you help us with a class, for leader development?
General Beagle did more than that, inviting Sarah Rosencrantz and her students to visit the base.
Got it.
Small groups of students, teachers, and counselors visit Fort Drum to learn about the Army. For many, this is their first exposure to military life beyond what they know from pop culture.
There's a lot of perceived notions, from what they see on TV.
And they come in and see that you have over 150 job specialties. They're blown away, anywhere from veterinarian to lawyer.
And their brainchild is growing, with other bases around the country creating their own mentor programs. Another recruiting challenge, only 23% of Americans are even eligible to serve. At Fort Jackson, the Future Soldier Prep Course is helping struggling recruits.
We have some young men and women that want to serve, that are having some challenge on the academic and physical side, and what we want to do is give them that opportunity.
This 90-day mini boot camp helps potential recruits meet Army standards. About 3/4 of these students eventually qualify to ship to boot camp. But the Army chief says over time, today's recruiting shortfalls will impact readiness.
We have the soldiers that we need to do to protect the nation. What I'm concerned is long term. I'm looking over the next 2 to 3 years.
Some members of Congress have questioned the Pentagon's priorities and whether they are hurting recruiting.
We got time to embrace critical race theory at West Point, to embrace socialism at the National Defense University, to do mandatory pronoun training. The Biden administration is trying to destroy our military by force-feeding it wokeism.
Another friction point, the mandatory COVID vaccine. Pentagon leaders insist it's necessary to maintain readiness, but the Army alone has discharged nearly 1,800 soldiers for refusing the vaccine.
What we need to focus on the Army is remaining apolitical and underscoring to Americans that they can have confidence that our Army is loyal to the Constitution of this country, not to a particular political party.
Joining me on set now is Courtney Kube. Courtney, it's such a fantastic report, and you lay out the complexities so well. So big picture here, looking forward, what is the Army doing right now to address these recruitment challenges?
So among the things they're doing is historically high recruiting bonuses. So in some cases, and it's not just the Army, in some cases they're offering over $100,000 to young men and women who are willing to sign up. In addition to that, they are really expanding their marketing and their advertising, and they are targeting the influencers, the parents, the guidance counselors, the kind of people who could influence a young man or a woman to decide to enlist.
Yeah, because the point was made that so often it's the parents who have real concerns about sending their kids off. Is this just an issue that the Army is dealing with, or is this broader?
Not at all. So every service really struggled this year, in this fiscal year, to meet their recruiting goals. A number of them were able to reach into their delayed entry pool. So these are people who've signed up but haven't yet shipped to boot camp. They're able to grab some of those people and to make their recruiting numbers by using those individuals. But the reality is, because it was such a tough recruiting year for all the services, every single one of them is starting off in a tougher position this year than they did last year.
Well, it's such an incredible report, and I know you will stay on top of it, and we will look forward to your update. Courtney, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Good to see you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.